Nothing can prepare you for a day like this as a broadcaster. It feels like we all lost a friend,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people, a father. And I know that Dave McCann, longtime BYU TV broadcaster, lead anchor at KSL News Channel 5, has spent a lot of time around LaVell, not just in his college years, but calling different games and sit-down interviews. And he joins us now, also on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. All right, Dave. Man, it's hard to encapsulate emotions on a day like today, but what are you feeling right now?
Well, I certainly love listening to Blaine and Steve. I could listen to those guys all day as they tell stories as a former player for Coach Edwards. I think the perspective that I can bring is being the son of one of LaVell's friends. My dad was head of the Cougar Club as LaVell got things going with the football team, and as the Cougar Club grew, and as the football team was successful, they kind of mirrored each other. The more success BYU had on the field, the more success the Cougar Club had, and the more success the Cougar Club had, LaVell Edwards and his staff were put in a position to be able to recruit and do their jobs. And I saw LaVell's respect for my dad throughout those 25 years. And I remember when LaVell came through at my father's viewing 19 years ago and gave us, all the boys, a hug. And you could just, you could feel that he got it. He fully understood the role that our dad played in his success. And we certainly understood the role that his success played in the life of my father and for his job and feeding us and raising us and all of that. And so I'll never forget that, his genuine goodness. Nobody was ever too big for him. And when I was on my mission in Texas, BYU came down to play UT, and my dad came down and got permission from our mission president, for my companion and I, to stay with the team and have breakfast the next morning, the morning of the game. And we came into the room and had our mission badges on and our ties. And LaVell got up and he sat us down at his table. And this was the morning before a really big game with BYU playing at UT. And my companion was from California. He was about to pass out because he thought he'd never be this close to LaVell Edwards, let alone having breakfast with him. And I just remember him treating us as if we were his quarterback that day. Just respect and admiration, and fully interested in us and how our missions were going. And then later, as we called his games, and Blaine and I have called a bunch of them, just a first-class human being. And it's sad, but at the same time, it's a celebration of a human being that's come here and met all the things he came here to do, and has the opportunity to go back and celebrate his Earth experience.
Dave, there are two words that come to mind when I think of LaVell. One is humble, and the other is approachable. I mean, for everything that this man accomplished, he had every right probably to be pretty full of himself, and he could not have been more the opposite of that, and you've referenced some of that. What does that say about him as the man?
I think it says everything about his faith and his understanding of what life is all about. And to him, life was about developing young men into better men and husbands and fathers, and of course the list is endless for what he did there. I don't think his life's ambition was to win games for the sake of being able to walk around and say, I won that game. When he was a kid, he'd sit up in the orchard overlooking BYU practice, and that's kind of where his ambition began of, I want to be a coach someday. But I never heard him say, I want to be the greatest ever. You know, he never had a Muhammad Ali quote that said, I am the greatest thing that ever walked. But that's what made him endearing to the coaches he beat. You couldn't not like him in our interviews with coaches that couldn't beat him. You just couldn't not like him. I think the relationship with he and Ron McBride best describe what LaVell was able to do. There was animosity between the Utes and Cougars for all those years, and LaVell beat him like 17 out of 18, and McBride started to get better. He started to recruit return missionaries, and while the fans were still going after each other, all of a sudden we see the two coaches as becoming best friends, especially when they both retired and had a radio show, and you go, you know what, this is what it's supposed to be. These guys interested in developing men, wanting to be successful, but never so full of themselves that they couldn't go over and hug the opposing coach, who they either just beat or got beat by him.
Dave, we appreciate your time. I know you're such a busy guy, and you're preparing for a basketball game tonight, and yet that just feels so far away and so insignificant at a time like this. But we appreciate all you do for BYU TV and the insight into LaVell and his legacy.
I'm sure there'll be a moment of silence tonight. That'll be good. It'll be good to feel that, and we'll have that hopefully on our broadcast tonight. It's tough, as those of us who've let our fathers go. It's tough to see good people go, but I remember what Brigham Young used to say is, if we knew really how good, if we had any inkling of how good it was on the other side, we would celebrate, and we wouldn't be so sad when those we love moved over. I will say this, and I know you've got a whole lot of lineup of coming, but one of the funniest things that I heard LaVell say was why he didn't attend BYU as a student. You know, he played offensive line at, I think, 165 pounds at Utah State. But one of his great quotes, he said, and I'll leave this with you, and something to think about. He said, if I'd have gone to the Y, I would have had to live at home. And if I'd been living at home, my job would have been milking the cows. I was sick of milking those two darn cows. I'd have gone to Utah to get away from them. Well, maybe not Utah, but I wanted to get away. Well, he's away now, and but he's out of that body that is tired and worn out, and how fortunate all of us are to have known him, and will continue to know him as his legacy lives on. And thanks for having me on. I'll see you guys tonight.
Dave, thanks so much for the time.